So we have the first departure of a key member of staff at a Formula 1 team this year, and we're not even 2 weeks in. But unlike the other piece of big breaking news that happened at the end of last year just after the season finished, this one actually happened. Gunther Steiner has left Haas. I know, everybody is sad, because for the Drive to Survive crowd, he was an integral part, playing, well, I say playing because he is a real person, sort of a Italian version of Malcolm Tucker. Now this is the part where I'd insert a short clip of Malcolm Tucker, but even in a 2-second clip, I'd use up my F-bomb limit. And actually, that was part of the reason he was so popular in that documentary series. He was quite an outspoken member of the paddock, who liked to lace everything with not so much a liberal amount, but more a full-blown overdose of swearing. And actually, studies have shown that those who swear tend to be more intelligent. I must be a genius then. But Steiner's time at Haas wasn't his first rodeo in Formula 1. When the Red Bull team was simply called Jaguar, he was quite high up in the operation there, being one of the sort of managing directors of the team for a couple of years. And then when it became Red Bull, he was the technical operations director. Yeah, one of those. But on top of this, Steiner has had a career in racing stemming over 35 years. He actually began his career as a mechanic for the Mazda team in the World Rally Championship and did that between 1986 and 1988. From 89 to 1990, he was the assistant team manager for Top Run, an Italian team that currently races in TCR, and was then head of reconnaissance and then the technical manager at Jolly Club from 1991 to 1996. In 1997, he was the manager of ProDrive's all-star rally team that won the European Rally Championship before he joined M Sport as a project manager. While at M Sport, he would then join their World Rally team, working with Colin McRae and Carlos Sainz. But it's at Haas that we know and love him. He'd entered that job through meeting Gene Haas at a steakhouse along with Joe Custer, and Gene had proposed entering Formula 1 as a constructor, but ordering cars from a different chassis maker, instead of doing it in-house. Steiner recruited the core staff, interviewed every team member, and also got the relationship set up with Dallara and Ferrari. In 2014, he was announced as the team principal of what was to become the Haas Formula 1 team. And now, 10 years later, or almost 10 years later, he's gone. While it's been written online he's been sacked by the team, it's sort of technically not true. His contract was up for renewal, and Haas chose to let it run out instead. A bit like how Jeremy Clarkson left Top Gear. But seeing as he was no longer wanted, I guess he was kicked out without having to be kicked out, if that makes any sense. They won't have to pay off any contracts, but legalese is a difficult language to learn. Also leaving the team is Simone Resta, although Resta had left the team prior to Gunther leaving the team. And usually when that happens, so two high-profile members of the team leaving in quick succession, it usually implies a falling out between team owners and, well, those team members. But if you to read everything online, it starts to point to lack of results. The best the team ever performed was 5th in the Constructors' Championship in 2018, when Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen were the two drivers. But other than that, it's been right down at the bottom. 10th in 2021, 10th last year, and in 2021, that's by far their worst season on record. No points, dead last in the championship. They were also last in 2023 with 9th place finishes in 2019 and 2020. But when you find out how the team does things, it's sort of expected. Haas entered Formula 1 to promote his machine tools business. Steiner set up the team to get as many parts from Ferrari as possible, but I can't figure out whose idea that was. They do the absolute bare minimum with which to be classed as a constructor. They design the chassis and the aero surfaces, and pretty much everything else is bought from Maranello. Which, as the BBC notes, is a very cost-effective way of doing things, but it also hinders you. When you're not designing your own parts and you're using somebody else's, you limit the ability to create your own designs and iron out problems with someone else's kit. Haas last season suffered from aggressive tyre wear, and because they were using Ferrari's stuff, the ability to figure out how to fix it wasn't there. Now, I'm no engineer, but surely they'd have to effectively copy the Ferrari for it to work properly. Do what Racing Point did with Mercedes a few years back. And actually, Sky Sports reported that Haas hadn't blamed Steiner for everything that was happening. He said that he had no interest in being 10th anymore and couldn't understand why the team was finishing as badly as it was, with all the equipment and people that they've got. But when the team does the bare minimum to get on the grid, then that might be why. They need their own parts more than anything, instead of trying to be cost-effective face over here. But Gene has said that the approach they take isn't as cheap as it seems. It's also believed that Steiner was asking for more money to upgrade the facilities in Banbury, having seen what Aston Martin and Williams are doing with their factories. Williams having to upgrade massively because a lot of their stuff is stuff that they were using in the 90s and the early 2000s. But while Steiner wanted to upgrade and try and catch up to everybody else and sort of get on a better level with the other teams around them, Gene is saying, no, I'm not spending any more money, just make do with what you've got. There's a perception that we spend a lot less money. We're usually within 10 million of the budget limit. I just think we don't do a very good job of spending that money. A lot of teams have had previous investments in their infrastructure, buildings, equipment and personnel. Our model was to outsource that. We spend a lot of money. It's all about winning. We have a great team, great engines, we have great drivers. There's no reason why we're 10th. I can't understand how we can be with all the equipment and people we have. If it really is a case of not spending and wondering why you're last, it's a bit like those old episodes of Kitchen Nightmares, where the restaurant's falling apart and the food is like 10 years out of date and cooked from frozen, so it tastes like, well, rubber or chipboard or something like that, and then going, why is there nobody eating in my restaurant? And then Gordon Ramsay comes in, swears a lot and tries to get it fixed, and in a lot of cases the owners don't listen. This is basically an episode of Kitchen Nightmares, isn't it? But with a racing team. Steiner is Gordon Ramsay. It's not like they could have developed anyway because they had those two meme moments, for want of a better phrase. The Rich Energy sponsorship fiasco in 2019 and the 2021 season when the team was in need of a cash injection so badly, Steiner hired Nikita Mazepin, the son of a Russian billionaire, and Mick Schumacher, the son of Michael, the 2020 F2 champion, and also the son of Michael Schumacher. Having him was guaranteed media coverage and attention for the team, which would have hopefully landed more sponsorship. Steiner was also able to secure the sponsorship of MoneyGram, which contrary to the belief of some is not a crypto thing, but a money transfer service like Western Union, and also secured the sponsorship of Chipotle Mexican Grill. It's also rumoured that MoneyGram is not happy with Steiner's dismissal, but that's one of those things you just have to wait and see what happens. So while it's easy to go, well, bad results, it's the team principal's fault, off you go sunshine, it's not helped by the perceived lack of investment from the owner. I say this because there's all this stuff online that Gene has no interest in spending $1 more than necessary, if spending $1 at all on the team, and just letting it advertise tools to the world, whilst looking like a bunch of tools. The Haas cars are just billboards. I mean, okay, Formula 1 cars in general are billboards, but this team was set up purely to advertise a tool company. But when you don't put in the money or the support, as claimed online, then you can't complain when the results don't come. If indeed that is what is happening. But Gene has actually said that there's no need to invest. The 2021 performances were so bad because the team basically did nothing with the car that year. With all the stuff coming in with the cost caps and all of that stuff, it made more sense to pump as much resources as possible into the 2022 car. But then things changed, which admittedly are beyond Steiner's control. Now, with Rich Energy, you could probably say the team should have done its due diligence on that. A company springing up seemingly out of nowhere and promising money is a red flag in any category of motorsport. Other teams have had their existences erased from motorsport in many cases. 40 is a prime example. However, the situation with Mazepin was a little different, due to the conflict in Ukraine which led to heavy sanctions being placed on Russian athletes, individuals and businesses. This choked off any potential investment Haas could have received from Uralkali, the company owned by Mazepin's father. All this was done according to the BBC because Steiner had been told by Haas that he was going to shut down the team if any external funding wasn't found. So Steiner found some, only for circumstances to go against him, if you get me. So during 2022, things weren't so great. The Uralkali sponsorship was terminated due to the Ukraine conflict. Schumacher wiped out his car in two massive accidents, one at Jeddah and the second at Monaco, and only scored 2 points finishes all season. While Magnussen, who had to be called up last minute due to the political discord, scored 6 points finishes and got a pole position in Sao Paulo. This isn't a criticism of Mick or anything, this is just how their season went that year. 37 points and 8th in the standings. So what's happening now? Well, Haas has appointed Ayao Komatsu, I hope I got that first name pronunciation right, who's been at Haas since it arrived on the grid in 2016. Komatsu is a 47-year-old engineer from Tokyo who moved to the UK to study automotive engineering at Loughborough University. He then went and got a PhD in vehicle dynamics and control, so it appears he's well qualified. Komatsu began his career in motorsport with the British American racing team in 2003, where he was a tyre engineer. In 2006, he moved to Renault to be a performance engineer and worked mainly with the test team. So instead of working with Alonso or Fisichella, he was working with Nelson Piquet Jr., Roman Grosjean and Vitaly Petrov. He did, however, become Grosjean's race engineer in 2012, where the pair scored 9 podiums together, and he was made chief engineer in 2015. When Grosjean went to Haas, Komatsu went with him, and in turn he became the trackside engineering director. Now he's the team principal. All this leaves now is what happens to Haas in the long run. There have been calls for Gene to just sell the team and move on, potentially selling it to Michael Andretti, which is a name that was always going to be top of the list. But would Gene sell to a rival like that? It'd be like Ferrari selling to Lambo. I can't see it happening, and in response to those calls for Gene to sell to Andretti, there are a good number of people saying, no, they should stay, and we can then have 11 teams rather than 10, which is a fair argument. Gene has actually said in the last 24 hours or so that he has no intention of selling the team, even though pretty much every motorsport outlet is saying that he should sell the team. Komatsu will, according to Haas, be a more technically focused team principal. Maybe this will begin the shift of Haas developing more of their own stuff instead of relying on Ferrari's bits to go racing, and Haas will then be able to have parts that suit their car rather than having parts made for another car on their car, if that makes any sense. Maybe the car will be competitive for more than 3 laps in one go as a result. But it is, as always, one of those things that remains to be seen. Either Haas has to use his team as more than just a glorified billboard, or actually go racing with it. If Andretti does come in, you'd think that their presence would force Haas to pull his or their fingers out. American pride on the line and all that. But the fact remains, Steiner leaving Haas is going to leave a big hole. For Netflix, he was comedy gold with his personality and swearing ability, and he was one of the integral pieces of the series. So will Haas be as big of an interest to things like Netflix and the rest of the motorsport media now that Steiner is gone? It's one of those things where, like I say, it's going to have to be a wait-and-see approach, and you can only speculate until the facts manifest themselves. But, you know, I'd like to know what you think. Should Gene just sell it and move on, or carry on and actually try? So then, a look at the news that Haas has dumped Gunther Steiner. Would have done this on Wednesday, but was too busy writing about Schumacher and Eddie Jordan. If this thing has made you think things about the thing, then like this thing, and if you want to see more things from the channel, click the subscribe thing and click the bell thing as well, so you never miss out on anything that I do around here. Massive thanks to the patrons and channel members, and if you want to keep the picture purchasing piggy bank alive, then a link to Patreon is in the description, along with links to Discord, socials, and other bits and pieces, like my affiliate links. Well, there's super thanks if you just want to do a one and done tip, and memberships there as well. So until next time, I've been Millward, have a great day wherever you are, and goodbye.